first got it into it, I heard about God of War, saw it demoed probably at E3 or some kind of conference. I remember thinking like the design of it, the aggression of it, the, like you even said, like the gore of it. I mean, it was something that I had only really ever seen and really experienced in Mortal Kombat, and I wanted some kind of, you know, adult themed game like that that was action based, but had a much better story, because you know, love Mortal Kombat all you want to. Their open world aspects aren't that great. So then here comes God of War, which is very linear, very guided, but at the same time, you know, you're trying to get your button mash combos up, and then there's so much, you know, mythology attached to it, and like the story, it, you know, wasn't the greatest story in the world, but it was a really good, really interesting story. And in spite of all the blood and gore and, you know, combat and all that stuff, like, and the crazy mini games that you experience throughout multiple versions of the game, it was an incredible, you know, piece of art for one, and then an awesome video game that was interesting and fun to play. And it was an incredible experience.
I was watching something on YouTube about like the history of God of War, and David Jaffe, the guy that directed the first one, it's funny that you mentioned Mortal Kombat, because he said to some of his animators, he said, I want you to come to work angry, and I want you to animate anger into this guy, anger and rage and all of that, and I want it to play kind of like a fighting game. And I'm sure he probably told him Mortal Kombat, you know, like Sub-Zero ripping the spine out of somebody and everything like that, because that's kind of what Kratos does, right? And so that was really what he told his guys to do. He said, we're making an action game, and I forget what they think they call it character action, because it's mainly just one guy or one character. I think the only games before this that were similar were maybe some Devil May Cry type games, and I think some of those guys worked on this one too.
Yeah, I remember. Right on.
I may be wrong, but
that makes sense, especially for the combo-driven combat, for sure.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. And then I think the other one they made mention of was Ninja Gaiden, the one that was on Xbox. Like, it's like Ninja Gaiden Black now and stuff like that.
And thinking about that game had spawned off so many successors, people that were inspired by that, you know, wanted to keep that franchise going. So now fast forward to today, you know, specifically this Friday, that franchise God of War is essentially not rebooting, just kind of taking a completely different stance in the way that they're gonna, you know, make that game and come across with it. So knowing what you know about all the previous God of War games, as much time as you spent with them, you know, learning about them, and then the game that's going to release this Friday, what should people know, specifically parents that have kids or are thinking about getting it and playing it near the kids? What should they know about what is in this game that they should be concerned about, or at least, you know, acknowledge and informed about, that might be in this future God of War game?
If I was going to tell somebody, you know, if they have kids or something, whether or not this game should be for their kids, I would say be hesitant, because every single one of these games that ever came out were mature rated for a reason. Right. And they went with it. It wasn't like, ah, crap, it got an M rating by accident. No, they've got actual sex mini games in these games. They have Kratos ripping heads off, breaking people in half. I was just playing God of War 3, and the first boss, Poseidon, it actually tells you to press both of the sticks, the L3 and the R3, because his finishing move for the guy is to gouge his eyes out with his thumbs. And so you actually have to press down on the sticks as if you're gouging the guy's eyes out yourself.
Yeah, man, that is the game.
That's fun, right? But it's not something that I would want my 4-year-old or even my 8-year-old doing, because it's just, I don't think it's really for them.
And absolutely, and I think that's a really good point, especially with the violence and what's in it. I mean, the game is the game through and through. It's not going to try to be a game for kids. It's not going to try to be anything that it's not. And that's, I think, what was a big appeal for us when we started playing it when we were younger, is that this is a game specifically targeted for, you know, somebody like me who wants this type of game. And I loved it. Yeah. But I also know that there were other people that were a little bit younger that weren't ready to see that kind of combat. And I 100% respect that, because at the end of the day, you know, the parents are the parents and will always be the parents, and if they don't think that it's appropriate for their kid, I mean, that's 100% within their reason to choose that. I mean, I 100% get that. And
well, and you younger, I don't want anyone to think that we were playing this when we were like 12.
Oh, right.
Younger, we mean when we were like 19, 20,
yeah,
22. You know, that's a completely different ball game. That's what they're shooting for with this. And honestly, when I look at my kids and when I look at other people's kids, every kid is different. You can't say that, okay, once you hit 12, you're mature enough to handle something. Well, some kids that are 12 can handle it, and some kids that are 10 can handle it, and vice versa. Some kids that are 12 can't handle it, you know. And it's like, you kind of have to judge on your own if your kid's gonna like be affected by this adversely. And I don't believe that video games are going to cause people to be violent or any of that kind of stuff. I know some people do.